brother. This is a continuation of family, friends, and fidelity. Right now, saints, I want to say to you, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how all of this is going to end up. But what I do know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is in my life and in all the lives of those that are people of faith, and even those that right now don't have the God-given common sense to realize we need His wisdom. Hallelujah. We need His wisdom.
Hallelujah. Yes.
For those of you that have brought your Bibles, and I know they're able to, let's go to Proverbs. Because, you know, I'm not the only one. Now, I may be one of a few that is willing to get on the airwaves and say, I don't know. And again, I'm not here for those that like to convey that they know exactly what's going to happen, and those that are bold enough to want to, some will call it prophesying, some will call it forecasting. That's fine. That's on them. I don't know what's going to happen, and he doesn't check in with me before he does whatever he does or don't do what he does. My responsibility is to find out what he has said, not only for my life and not only for our lives, but to get a clear understanding of his wisdom so that we can live in the earth. Not so much so that we can make every assembly. That's not what it's about. And I'm going to say, not so that we can just be good little boys and girls. It's bigger than that. That's a part of it. Don't get me wrong, please. Don't get me wrong. But saints, we need his wisdom because, see, there are a lot of voices. There are a lot of voices out right now. And I must be kind because he's kind, but any person that can get behind a mic and get a camera to rolling can just espouse whatever they want. And the danger in that is whatever's not accurate, whatever's not truthful, you're hurting a lot of people. You're hurting a lot of people. Let's get into this, and we'll start in the King James, Proverbs chapter 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment, and equity, to give subtly to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. Let me read that out of another translation. The Proverbs of Shlomo, the son of David, king of Israel, are for learning about wisdom and discipline, for understanding words, expressing deep insight, for gaining an intelligently disciplined life, doing what is right, just, and fair, for endowing with caution those who don't think, and the young person with knowledge and discretion. 5, someone who is already wise will hear and learn still more. Someone who already understands will gain the ability to counsel well. He will understand Proverbs, obscure expressions, the sayings and riddles of the wise. Family, friends, fidelity. I was just sharing with Pastor that this is going to sound like a preacher, but I have a message that I would like to share with the congregation, but it's for the congregation of Emmanuel Worship Center. So while we're streaming, those of you that are at home, and God bless you, get yourself in gear and get in here. Wear your mask. Practice social distancing. And saints, I might warn you, if you haven't already heard, this thing isn't going away tomorrow. Those that cannot adapt will die. I'm not prophesying death. We need his wisdom, how to live every day. Every day. You see, some of us have made decisions about what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And we do that at a great peril. Just a little bit of insight that has come to me from the Most High. This situation is about, what do you really think about others? What do you really think about others? In the household of faith, we all like to say we love each other. And, you know, for a long time, I've said to you, you know, many of us use the same terminology, use the same words, but often we have different meaning. Some of us are under the impression that, hey, things about to wrap up. Maybe. But what are you going to do if things don't wrap up? Is it going to change the way you live? See, if you're living by his wisdom, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It might be a year. It might be 1,000 years from now. Some of us might want to be here at his coming, if that's how you understand the scriptures, particularly in what we call the Brit Hadashah. But again, I'm asking you, what wisdom are you living by every day? I'm not just talking about on Sabbath. Every day when you're in the grocery store. Every day when you're at the gas station. Every day when you're interacting with people that may not be in the same lane of faith that you're in. Every day when you come in contact with people that you have purposed in your life to avoid because they're deemed evil. How important is Torah in your life? And how much of Torah are you demonstrating on a daily basis? When you feel good, when you don't feel good, when you think you know what's going to happen and when you don't have a clue. We need his wisdom. There's a great conversation going on right now, and I wanted to be fair as I could be, because I don't listen to a lot of the what we would call, I guess, Christian networks. and that's not an indictment. That I'll say that's a flaw in my character. I'll put it that way. That's a flaw in my character. So I asked another friend of mine that doesn't necessarily study the scriptures the same way that I do, but we go back and forth. And I said, well, hey, is there a conversation going on? And they said, well, yeah, it is. I said, well, I do listen a lot to sports radio. Well, why do you do that? Because sometimes I get kind of weighted down. And this is a real heavy time right now. And the young people are starting to take their rightful place in society, and they're beginning to take the lead. In fact, they're showing some of us old people how to deal with the situation at hand that for so many years has really not been talked about. The dialogue has begun, and for those of you, for those of us that are real comfortable talking about the United States is this, the United States is that, let me tell you something. Judgment is, I've said it before, judgment is not just coming to the United States, it's coming to creation. And if you've looked at something, if you've taken a few minutes to turn off from whatever those stations are that's conveying what the message they're conveying, and you look at some of the worldly stations and go on the internet, do you know that this thing that started in the great Satan, the United States, this thing is sweeping across the world. The world. Everywhere where people that are a little darker or a little lighter, that's got kinky hair, they're standing up. And they're not by themselves. And for places where there are not so many of us, the oppressed in that particular country is standing up. France, Russia, Germany. Some of you might be saying, well, Israel is doing all right. Really. I asked you, just think about this for a second, particularly those of you that consider yourselves scholars. When the Ethiopians returned to their homeland, what kind of land were they given by people that are now occupying it? I'm just asking, don't answer. I just want you to open your eyes and see what's really happening. That dialogue that I was talking about earlier, I wonder how many of our evangelical brothers and sisters are willing to really have a real, honest, candid conversation, or are we still in denial? Are we still in denial? Where Mr. Floyd was buried. And saints, let me share this with you. The conversation has started. And whether you're going to be a part of the dialogue or not, I think you should, but when you join the dialogue, forget what you personally think about it. Take his wisdom to the conversation. You see, there are some of us, and yes, we have taken a beating. Our forefathers took the brunt. Yeah, we had a few scrapes. Yeah, we got passed over for some promotions as we went back to many of us, palatial estates. feeling sorry for ourselves, some of us driving foreign cars. I've said to you before, yes, I know many of us, oh, America is cursed. I'm telling you, we could have been sent to somewhere else a whole lot worse. I'm not saying that America is perfect, because it's not. But neither is anywhere else, and that includes Israel. Like I said, I was listening to the sports radio this morning, and I like basketball and, football and baseball. And, a lot of people, sports is a waste of time. No, it's not. It's an economy all within itself. And, when you're talking the economy, you're going to get my attention. Because where the dollars are flowing, I kind of want to know something about it. Particularly if it's flowing in a righteous manner. Now, I'm not trying to say sports can be another church. I'm not saying that. Don't read into what I'm saying. Please, just listen at what I'm trying to convey to you. But this morning, I don't know whether some of you know, and most of you probably don't know, because sports probably is not that big a thing for you, and that's okay, because in this country, if you don't like sports, you don't have to watch it. And in fact, in this country, you get to say whatever you want about whoever you want until you say something about the wrong person and you get sued. I don't know if a lot of you know, but NASCAR has decided they're going to take away that Confederate flag. Now, to some people, that might be a small thing. But I'm telling you, because I'm in church, listen, the move of God is moving in circles that many of us might not think he would move in. Let me share this with you. He made all of it. So he will intervene where and when he wants to. And the type of conversations that's going out on the radio, where you have people that are staunch, whatever NASCAR used to represent, calling up, voicing their displeasure. They've gone too far. And of course, I know in Richmond, and some of the pastors are going to start to open their congregations, I think next week, because, I've been kind of calling around. I haven't been calling around to no pastors. I call around to the members. That's Pastor Green's job, the real Pastor Green, not mine. He running those circles. But I'm telling you, these were people that were some of the commentators. They were saying, well, how do you feel? And one of the gentlemen got on, he has a weekly sports show, and he said, I'm tired. He said, my head is spinning, because he used to think a certain kind of way about people. And it took somebody that looked like me, and I'm not going to call the guy's name because he played professional sports. He was a basketball player, but he went over to do his commentating with NASCAR. And they talked about the gentleman, Willis Scott, the guy that won one of the NASCAR races, and his family didn't get the trophy until 2010. He won it in the 19-somethings. And so they had one of his family members on. And the guy got a chance to share from his heart on a NASCAR show. And NASCAR is mostly Southern and white. But there is a brother that's driving in there. And again, I'm just trying to show you the conversation is going on, saints. Where are we? Where are we? Again, I'm calling on my evangelical brothers and sisters. Where are you? Are you really willing to sit down and talk? Are you really willing to listen? Even though, yes, it's painful. The guy said, man, it's painful. My head is spinning. He says, I'm tired. He said, but it's got to go on. It's got to happen. And these are people that some of us will say, I don't believe them. And saints, what I want to convey to you is, listen, now that the dialogue has started, forget you getting your pound of flesh. I'm going to use some of your own words back at you. What did he say? He said, vengeance is mine. I will repay. So why are we trying to get in a few? You know, this is not the time for that. There's a lot of uncomfortable discourse. I don't know if some of you remember, but, and this is tied in some of what I wanted to share, but I'm going to say this. Remember, some months ago, I said that we needed to have some uncomfortable conversations. Months and months and months and months ago. Because we say we are a church of love. This time is a time for us to solidify our relationships in our different families. I'm serious. Even though right now, the youngest and the oldest kind of need to stay separated. But you can have an outdoor cooking or something. And, you know, we like to eat. And they can walk by. Right now, I still wouldn't advise a whole lot of hugging right now. And for those of you that I've tried to make my way to of what I know as far as your health, I've gone to each one of you, and most of you could confirm, and I'm not going to ask you to confirm it, but I asked you specifically about you and your situation. And I said to you what I said to you. I'm not questioning your faith. Your faith is not on trial here. Your faith is not on trial. Don't get sucked into that. You might end up going home early. And you leave work here for the rest of us to remain to do because you didn't do it. That's a whole nother way of looking at stuff. Those of you that live by his wisdom, I pray you live long, productive lives. And those of you that are outside the ark of safety, come in, come in, come in. So I turned to another radio station because I like to go backwards and forwards. And I mean, that's on that. I go to another radio station and I hear from stuff that's happening all over the world. And I'm like, man. And so some of you probably said, well, did you turn to so-and-so and so-and-so? No, I didn't. The believers should have been first in coming together to discuss it, but we weren't. Amen. We were not. Every big name, whoever, where were they? Where were they? Now, again, I know, like I said, Mr. Flood, I think he was buried in Houston, and I don't know him personally, but we used to make eye contact. Joel Osteen, the son of John Osteen. He did attend one of the protests, and he was barbecued in some circles. Because, see, when dialogue starts, if it's going to be honest, we have to have our hearts open and honest enough to receive the gesture that's made. It's not up to me to is he being real, or is this a photo op? Because yes, a lot of that's going on. A lot of companies have been forced to respond and repudiate what has happened to us as a people. Some are being forced to, but for a lot of them, again, whether it's good business practice, and that's their main reason, I don't know. I only know what's really in my heart. And believe it or not, you only know what's in your heart. Nobody else's. Not your spouse, not your siblings, your grandparents, great-grandparents, or anybody. You only know what's in your heart. And again, to use some of your verbiage, if my people that are called by my name would humble themselves, not, I got to get mine, God. Get them. That's where a lot of us are. Oh, I'd be so glad when judgment comes. Be careful. Be careful, because when it comes, it's going to hit my house, but it's going to hit yours too. Do you understand that? Look, we're not going to get to stand. He's here, and we standing behind. It's not going to be that kind of party. It's not going to be like that, if it's going to be that at all. He will decide. He will decide. He will decide. Someone who is already wise will hear and learn still more. And listen, a lot of us are going to be forced into doing some things that we might not want to do. But when you decide to do it his way, it works out. Really, in all of our lives, if we're being truthfully honest, when we stop trying to do it our way, and let me say this, some of us had ways that were pretty good. We did experience some success. But when you finally decide, okay, uncle, things went a lot smoother. Things happened a lot faster. Those big boulders, those big giants that were in our life, they begin to dissipate. And I want to go back over the thing with giants, about David and Goliath, because I got a little different perspective about that whole scenario, and it's a little different from the way it's been taught in our churches and synagogues. But that's for a time when it's just us, and I'm not being streamed. And I'm being very careful about what I say, because saints, whether you realize it or not, a lot of conversations are being listened in on. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Let me say that. We need to be careful about using certain phrases, whether you be on the telephone, and for God's sake, particularly if you're streaming, going out over the airwaves, be careful about what you say and how you phrase things. All of us got cell phones, and they got cameras, and thank God for them, because it's that type of technology that's gotten us to where we have to have a conversation. because the whole world saw what happened. And that was just one instance. It was a whole lot of people that have gone and nobody had a camera to record it. And that didn't just happen in the United States. Close your eyes, pick a country, and the same thing happened there. And if they didn't look like me, they were poor. Am I here waving the flag, talking about how great America is? No, I'm not. But I am telling you, it could be a lot worse. Listen to this. Someone who already understands will gain the ability to counsel well. Well, most of us know because of the way we study, study mostly from a Hebraic perspective. It's saying you really can't even give somebody advice, or you really shouldn't give somebody advice till you're about 50 years old. 50. Now, that's not to say, because again, the young people are teaching us old heads a lesson. Those same young people that we've been begging to come to church to hear that same message, because I realize I'm streaming. And they don't come because they don't believe it. Many of them, I felt like I felt like a failure because I was having a conversation with a guy that I loved like a brother. And when this thing first jumped off, I couldn't believe it, but he posted something. I don't have Facebook, and I ain't against Facebook, but I just don't do Facebook because I'm so old school. I don't like people having access to anything about me. I really prefer not to even stream, but I got to get over myself. Because like I said, when you join the conversation, don't just come with what you feel and what's happened to you. Come with his wisdom. That'll keep it on track. But he made a statement, something that happened in the 60s, and he posted it on there, and I said, man, why would you do something like that? You don't put something like that out. Hey, you're inviting trouble for yourself. You're inviting trouble for your family when you are that militant. Oh, are you saying, oh man, you've been domesticated by the people and you just one of them? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying use wisdom. Yes, you should be upset. Yes, you should protest. But let me ask you something. What does throwing a brick through somebody's window that you don't know, what does that accomplish other than go against what you're protesting about? You see, saints, there are people that want to take advantage in the wrong way about something that needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. And also, during this conversation, because see, some of you say, well, Barry, how can I get involved? Well, many of you have worked with people that don't look like you. And as you look at their Facebook pages, some of them they're trying to, well, wait a minute, help me understand. I had a conversation with another former coworker, and we were talking about another former coworker. And they said, all these years when we used to go out for coffee and go to lunch and da-da-da, and I was thinking they were one, and I was saying they were thinking you were away, but the person posted something on their Facebook page. And they posted from their heart. And of course, my friend got offended because this former employee, I guess they had a nanny or somebody that looked after them. And my friend said, you know, it made me so angry because my grandmother cleaned houses for people. And she said, I was so angry, I wanted to respond to her. She said, but I knew it wouldn't come out right. And I said, that's using wisdom. And they later explained to me, said, anybody remember the movie The Help? Well, I said, well, you know, y'all were a lot more progressive than a whole lot of folk, because 2 Caucasian ladies and 2 black ladies went to see that together. I said, I got one question for you. What was the conversation like after the movie? And she conveyed to me that, well, there wasn't much conversation after the movie. It took some days before they could talk about the movie. You see, saints, again, the conversation is starting. The hearts of everybody is being touched, challenged. But it's not about what we've been doing. Those of us of faith. It's not, we can't take credit for any of that. We'd like to. It was the young people. Now, granted, some of them started out, you know, they thought it was a time to get a free TV. And see, again, regular media, they love to see, that's what they want. And certain networks, and I'm not going to get into that because I'm trying to stay apolitical, but you know which stations show that over and over and over. And they have talking heads that come on. And I mean, it's like we live in 2 different Americas. But I tell you, I learned something from Bernita, because there were some stations that I was like, man, other than sports, I don't turn on that station, because a lot of their talking heads really upset me. But we were coming from somewhere one time. I was in the car with Bernita, and we were talking, and she said, well, sometimes I listen to whoever she said. I don't really remember, but I knew it was somebody that didn't necessarily think the way we thought. And she said, and I said, yeah, that's all right. I said, now, I should have thought about that. But she said, I listen in, basically, to track what my enemy is possibly planning. See, that's what's been done to us. We have broadcast from a many a pulpit, from a many a city hall meeting. We've told our enemy at that time exactly what we were planning to do. And the whole time, we gave them the plan to undo our plan. And no, I'm not bashing us. I'm saying the conversation got started. And it's painful. And people are uncomfortable. And sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm like, wow, this is heavy. This is heavy. This is heavy. And, you know, I'm like, wow, well, you know, where are all of the damn America? God, come zap them out of the sky. And I'm like, man, are you crazy? You know, saints, when you wish somebody get what's coming to them, don't worry, they're going to get it. But guess what? You might either get it before them or you might get it after them, but you're going to get it too. See, when it comes to other people, and I'm talking about this can be people that look like you. Most of us, when we feel we've been wronged, I want justice. I want the judgment of God to strike them down. But when it's somebody we love, we cry for mercy. And the Most High said, again, to borrow some things that we've studied, said, how many times should you forgive your brother? See, this is what I'm saying. We've come and we've sat and we've been taught and we've taken notes and we've gone to conferences and we've bought tapes and books and more tapes and books and all of this. And we can recite stuff backwards and forwards, but we're living very little of it. And every time something comes up where we get a chance to demonstrate what we say we believe, we revert back to, well, this is how I see it. This is what I feel about it. And the biggest sin of all, some of us go, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm not going to get involved in that. And we got to, particularly if you're applying his wisdom in your life. You got to speak up. You have to. Because right now, to borrow another phrase, right now the world is trying to figure it out. And they've gotten a lot further than we've gotten. Those of us that say, I'm championing truth. I'm championing truth. And we've been on the sidelines. It took the young people to say, hey, wait a minute. Them same young people that told us, man, I'm tired of every time February come around. I'm tired of hearing that. Those same young people that we shake our head in, oh, if you would just come to church, everything will be all right. And because they respect you and they love you, many of them say, I've looked at your life. It ain't all right. And so I say to the young people, I'm like, hey, listen. Yeah, I missed it. And yeah, I could have done a better job explaining to you how what was written thousands of years ago is still relevant today. And it is. So if you're going to go to the club, come on in here on Saturday too. And not just on youth. In fact, I'd like to extend an invitation because I think we're still rolling. Yes, we're still rolling. Listen, young people, particularly for those of you whose parents made you watch this. They mean well. But what I would like to do, and Pastor Hodge, I haven't even talked to him about this, but I really would just like to have a candid conversation with young couples between the ages of, if you got kids, come anyway. But if you're between 20 and 35, I really would like to sit down and talk with you, and you can ask me anything about my life. And again, I'm only using myself. Listen, done made a ton of mistakes, done sinned. Let me say that again. In fact, my mistakes are sin. Anytime I miss the mark, I'm sinning. Okay? Regardless of how little it may appear in somebody else's eyes or how great. But I want to introduce something into the conversation along with his wisdom, because his wisdom brings about transparency. And I want you to know that, not all old heads are out of touch. Now, we may not know, I got to get my phone fixed. I was hoping Elder Thompson was here. Be that as it may. But I just would like to have a forum where you can ask me anything. And I'm not going to go back to your parents with whatever you ask. I just want you to hear something unfiltered. And now we're not going to be in here talking like we're in some back alley now. But I want you to feel free. And if you can, if you got kids, this time leave your kids with somebody. Leave them with your grandparents, the ones that's been begging you to come to church and say, well, look, I'm finally going to go down there. Barry said he won't talk to me. Leave them in, and you come particularly between 20 and 35. Because I want to hear what you got to say, but there's some things I want to share with you that might make it a little easier for you to live day to day, and it's not only dealing with your church life. It's dealing with your home life. It's dealing with your financial life. It's dealing with how you relate to your children, how you relate to your parents and grandparents. All of that, there's no subject off the table. And I want you to feel free to come in. And again, I don't know it all. But where a lot of you are going, I've already been. And I bumped my head a time or two. I tried marriage. I messed up. But I can still, if nothing else, I can teach you what not to do. Okay? And I can show you that in each one of our lives, we come face to face with a situation, and if you don't pass, you're going to get tested again in that same area. But it's not designed for you to fail continually. It's designed for you to grow. It's designed for us to grow. I'm sorry, Benita. I was supposed to be up here 30 minutes. Someone who is already wise will hear and learn still more. Someone who already understands will gain the ability to counsel well. He will understand Proverbs, obscure expressions. And there are a lot of obscure expressions going across the internet. I'm not damning the internet. A lot of good information, a lot of factual information is out there, but there's a lot of misinformation. And saints, we need to be wise enough to know what to tune in and what to turn off. And I'm telling you, man, let's start training ourselves to see things the way he sees them as best we can. Because it's not the same thing. The way we see life is not the same way he sees life. Be you victim or be you perpetrator. God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. I'm going to close for now, and as all churches do, we're going to take an offering. And I'm not making light of that, but I'm going to have Pastor come up and handle the offering and the benediction.